Stoneybeach by Loretta Smith, read by Matthew Woods. Chapter 9. The realisation that he's going to be a father has a profound effect on Cat. He's determined that this child would have both a mother and a father to love him or her. He accepts that he'll have to put his own happiness aside and make the best of the situation with Joan. He loves her, but he's not in love with Joan. Joan hastily plans a simple wedding. Ethel makes a dress for her, and she looks beautiful. Joan isn't showing yet, but there are whispers among the guests suspecting the marriage is to ensure a legitimate birth. Cat invites Bob and a few other friends from the local pub and lads from the building sites. Arthur and Enid look on with pride, and it really is the best day of Cat's life. Wedding guests bring food from sausage rolls to potato salad and coronation chicken. The local hall is decorated with paper chains and bunting. Little girls dance with their mums while dads drink ale and watch, and little boys slide around on their knees. As most of the guests are from Joan's family, there's no segregation, and Londoners love the opportunity for a knees up. They do the hokey cokey and the conga, which pleases the older guests. Disco Dave plays the current records, the most popular being Pinball Wizard by The Who, Build Me Up Buttercup by The Foundations, and Honky Tonk Woman by The Stones. Patricia and Bob have a row when Bob spends far too much time talking to the female guests. Arthur doesn't like Bob at all. He thinks his little girl could do so much better. He suspects Bob is unfaithful, and he's right. Pat prefers not to think about it, but deep down she knows she can't trust him. She loves him despite his wrongdoings. This pisses Cat off too, as he's been asked to keep quiet about Bob's one-night stands. He hates having to do so, but Bob is his best mate, and they've been through so much together. After the wedding, they go to Southend-on-Sea for a few days' honeymoon. Joan rejects Cat's advances, stating that it might hurt the baby and that it's weird he'd want to make love when she's pregnant. Cat has to come to terms with this by now, and he still has urges, though he tries to be understanding of her condition. The honeymoon ends, and Mr. and Mrs. Redmond return to their flat. Joan encourages Cat to set up his own business and make more money so they can move into a small house in a nicer area, perhaps out in Essex. Joan is now only working part-time in a department store, making it much harder for Cat. He explains his situation to Arthur, who offers him a partnership. Together, they can expand the business. Arthur knows that without Cat, he'd struggle to meet his commitments, and his clientele has expanded over the last few years, thanks to Cat's hard work. Cat doesn't really love his work. He likes the banter with the lads and the sights, and he looks up to Arthur as a father figure, so he takes the partnership. He and Joan are able to move out into the country where Cat can commute to work in the city. This means really long days, up at 5:30 every morning and not home till gone 7 in the evening. When he gets home, the house looks perfect, as if designed by a department store, where Joan has now completely stopped working. She claims she started feeling ill and that she's hurting the baby. Cat says they can barely manage and that she'll have to go back to work part-time after the baby comes, or they'll fall into debt. Joan agrees, but makes it clear she's unlikely to return to work, as she seems to enjoy staying home, making the house perfect, and doesn't seem bothered that Cat is now working 6 days a week just to keep up with the desire to keep up with the Joneses. It's the summer of 1975. Cat and Joan drive with the children Ben and Maria, who are 5 and 3 respectively, to a pub in Surrey. It's a difficult drive, but it's Bob and Pat's anniversary party. Bob has hired the King's Head and invited several friends and family. Bob started trading in stocks and shares a few years ago, and it turns out he has a real talent for it. He's fast on his way to becoming a millionaire. He and Pat married and bought a big house in the suburbs with a swimming pool. They're always inviting Cat and Joan on holiday to Hawaii. Joan is desperate to go, but Cat refuses, as they can't afford it, and he won't accept Bob's charity. When Joan complains, Cat suggests she take on a part-time job to save up for it. Her response is that she can't work and clean the house, and looking after the children is a full-time job. Cat reminds her that Pat looks after 2 children and still manages to work. Joan criticises the state of Pat's house, and Cat says they're obviously happy, so what if their cushions aren't perfectly arranged? This argument happens every time they meet up with Bob and Pat. Cat has now moved into the spare room permanently, fed up with constant rejections whenever he wants intimacy. It's obvious their marriage is coming to an end. Kat is suspicious that Joan is cheating on him. Joan has a close friend who is single and they spend many evenings together drinking wine. Rachel Sunderland is an old school friend who works as an air hostess for British Airways. Joan is jealous of her international jet-set lifestyle. Whenever they meet up at home, Kat gets irritated to stay up late laughing and drinking several bottles of wine. He can hear Joan criticise him for not making enough money for her to have the things she feels she deserves. So Joan starts going to see Rachel, rushing home in the morning to get Ben to school on time. On one occasion, Kat calls Rachel's house but gets no answer. When he asks Joan the next day where she's been, she replies that they've gone to a wine bar for drinks and got home late. Can I suggest that if you really want a nice holidays and clothes, instead of going out spending the money I graft for every day, perhaps you could look into finding a part-time job? This is the familiar starter to another row. Well, perhaps if you finally went into business for yourself instead of carrying that decrepit old man, then I wouldn't have to. Joan responds, clearly resenting Arthur Patterson. And I work very hard, I'll have you know. The children need constant attention, and I'd like you to appreciate the work I put into keeping the house looking nice. The arguments are getting more aggressive, and Kat is concerned this is affecting the children. He feels so wronged by Joan, and she's spending more and more time with her friend, failing to get home in time to take care of the children for breakfast on several occasions. One evening, when Joan is out with Rachel, Kat gets a call from Bob asking him to cover if Pat calls. He's clearly seeing someone. Kat disapproves of this infidelity, but agrees to lie for his best mate if questioned. After hanging up, Kat has a gut feeling. He picks up the phone and he calls Rachel's house. Hello, Rachel answers with just a couple of rings. Hi Rachel, it's Kat. Can I speak to Joan, please? There's a moment of silence. Hello, Rachel? Is she there? No, Kat. Sorry, I haven't seen her, comes the awkward reply. I don't understand, Rach. She said she was meeting up with you tonight. Have you any idea where she might be? No, sorry, Kat. Can't help you. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. She's probably with one of her other friends at the pictures or something. Kat thanks Rachel and agrees there's probably a simple explanation. As soon as he puts the phone down, Kat knows Joan is having an affair. He knows she likes being flirted with, but he can't get his head around this. Why would she cheat when she clearly doesn't like sex? She's probably looking for a man who makes more money than he does. The next morning, Kat gets the kids up and fed. There's no sign of Joan, so he's getting ready to take Ben to school and Maria to play school when the phone rings. It's Patricia asking if he's heard from Bobby. Kat covers for his mate again, saying he had tickets for the boxing and when I've been on the beer with some boys, probably crashing with Brian or Jeff, so I didn't have to drink and drive. Once the kids are at school, Kat arrives home to find Joan cleaning upstairs with the vacuum cleaner humming loudly. Hi love, would you like a cup of tea? Inquires Kat. Oh yes, please, darling. Aren't you leaving for work? No, I've taken the day off. Not feeling too well. How's Rachel? Without pause, Joan replies, Fine. She's so lucky. She's just come back from a 4-day stopover in Jamaica. Can you believe it, how lucky she is? What did you two get up to last night? Did you stay in or go out? Joan smiles at Kat, looking directly in the eye. We popped out to the new bar, but it was boring, so we went back to Joan's flat with a bottle of wine and spent the night putting the world to rights. Kat meets Joan's eye and remarks, that's strange, as he spoke to Rachel and said she hadn't seen her. He adds that perhaps she should get her alibi sorted out next time she's sleeping with some other man. Joan looks out the window for a moment, clearly thinking of what to say next. Well, Kat got your tongue, teases Kat. I don't know what you're talking about, Kat. I was with Sandra Lewis from school. I never said I was with Rachel. Joan's eyes don't leave Kat's as she holds her nerve, attempting to wriggle out by adding more lies to her shaky alibi. I asked how Rachel was, and you replied that she was well, and you went to a new bar, then back to the flat with a bottle of wine. No, I thought you said Sandra, not Rachel. Really, love, comes the sarcastic reply. And how long has Sandra been an air hostess for British Airways? And I'm sure she lives in a semi-detached house, not a flat. Joan continues trying to wriggle out of the situation. Kat demands she stop lying, and she'll soon have no idea what's true and what isn't. It's just you and me here, Joan. You're obviously having an affair. Why don't you just tell me the truth for once in your life? Joan repeats her story about thinking Kat asked about Sandra, not Rachel. Kat stops her. You have just sunk to an all-time low, even for you, and you've lost all integrity, you bitch. Joan's expression changes from defensive to fury, and she launches herself at Kat. He steps backwards towards his room and closes the door to shut Joan out. Joan kicks at the door and forces it open, and then starts flailing her arms at Kat. He's much stronger than Joan and grabs her wrists, forcing her back and holding her against the bedroom door. For a split second, a red mist engulfs him, and he considers throttling Joan. Then he regains himself and instead holds her firm while she wildly kicks at him. He shouts, "Stop it!" about a dozen times, when he realises she has no control of her rage. He turns and he pushes Joan onto the bed and then walks away from her. By this time, Joan is sobbing uncontrollably, saying how could he attack her like that? Kat looks back at her and mutters that she's pathetic, and he walks out of the house to the pub. Kat sits in the innkeeper, his local, staring at the pint he bought about an hour before and has barely touched. A police car pulls up outside. The moment Kat sees 3 police officers enter the pub, he knows they're for him. "Are you Reginald Redmond, sir?" "Yes, officer. I guess my wife has made up a story that I've attacked them." "Yes, sir, and there's been a complaint of domestic abuse, and we'll need you to accompany us to the station. I do hope you won't give us any trouble." Kat goes quietly with the officers and is handcuffed in the back of the Ford Cortina. At the station, he's read his rights and placed in a single cell with pastel green walls, a concrete floor, and a single wooden bench with rough look in a blanket. Kat is very polite to the desk sergeant. He has no quarrel with them. They're only doing their job. Inside, he's seething with rage that Joan has not only cheated with his friend and then lied constantly about it, but attacked him and had the audacity to lie to the police. End of chapter 9.